You're listening to the Patriot Nation Podcast.
All right, welcome into another edition of the Patriot Nation Podcast, of course, brought to you by FanDuel. FanDuel.com is the official sports wagering partner of CLNS Media. Go to FanDuel.com/Boston to sign up today. And Matt, we're heading into a week, and listen, we still don't know who the starting quarterback is, right? Matt, Bill Belichick.
We kind of know. Bill
Belichick. No. Bill Belichick refuses to say who the starting quarterback is. But you're right. We have a very good idea that Bailey Zappe is going to be taking over. Mac Jones looks to be benched. Seems like his Patriots career is over. And I don't expect really anything to change.
I don't know if I'd go as far as to say that his career is over, because with the flip-flopping, or that his career in New England's over, with the flip-flopping we have seen in New England, if Zappe implodes the way Mac did, maybe we see him again this year. Definitely if there's like an injury or something. The other thing I'll say is, I know we've said we want to reset this entire QB room. I think there's a chance he's in the quarterback room next year, or at least on the team in August. I don't think it's a high one. I think it's the right assumption to make that his career here in New England is done. But I think the door's still open enough that...
Yeah. I mean, look, he's on a rookie contract, right? So, like, anything's possible. He certainly could be here still. But
if anybody's offering you anything in a trade this summer or this offseason, you're taking it. And
what I would love to see, and I don't know if Bill has the stones to do it or not. Or I shouldn't say it that way. I don't know if Bill would ever do it. But the early word out of the Patriots beat reporters today was that at practice, what they saw was that Bailey Zappe was taking the majority of the first snaps, and after him was Malik Cunningham. What if Mac Jones was inactive for the game on Sunday and he was the emergency quarterback?
I fully expect that, especially because
I love that.
Especially because, like, you can elevate. Is Cunningham? Did they sign him, or is he still on the practice squad?
Cunningham's on the practice squad still, so you'd have to.
They can elevate him.
I think that they might be out of elevations for him, which is why they signed him.
I think he has. No, they signed him because that was the only way they could do the emergency QB thing.
That's a good point. That's a good point. Yeah.
Yes. Oh, so they can't even do that this time with Malik, because you need all three quarterbacks involved to be on the active roster. So they couldn't even promote him and have I wouldn't be shocked if Mac is just, game day inactive.
Yeah.
Like and it's also, if you're trying to reset and you're trying to send a message to the locker room, if you are internally trying to assert that this guy is, our starter,
right.
I appreciate the thing I appreciate about Bill right now is that he's staying true to his stripes. This is who he's always been. I mean, you even go back to his Browns days with the quarterback controversies they had there. It's the same thing, and he's sticking to it. And I figure the people inside the building have an idea of what's going on, and they may not know by Bill's words, but they will know by Bill's actions, by who's getting the practice snaps and what's going on. And if the action on Sunday is that Zappe is starting and Mac is inactive, then everybody knows Zappe's the guy for that game. He's playing. He's probably not getting pulled. He's only coming out for package plays or for injury reasons. So I think that'd probably be good for the guys if that's what you do. I mean, I don't know if it changes to anything, but morale-wise, it's probably nicer.
I mean, look, you saw the way the guys responded when Zappe went in on the first drive, right? And then you asked Zappe to push the ball down the field, and he just can't do that. That's just not who he is. And that's okay, but that's not who he is, at least right now, And so,
maybe it's a little better with a week of practice leading up to it. I don't expect substantial changes.
Right.
And this Chargers defense has been so up and down. They've actually played a couple decent games recently, but they've also had those bad games. So they're streaky enough that if you protect, Zappe could, go get a score here or there, or look good for a drive or two.
Right. But like the thing for me is that, like, I don't even want that. I don't want the Patriots to win. And I'm getting to the point now where it's like, it's funny. And by the way, Matt Menino mentioned that they've only elevated Malik once, so they could theoretically elevate him. But you're right. In order to elevate him, in order to have Mac Jones as your third emergency quarterback, you have to have Malik Cunningham on the active roster.
Or Will Grier.
Or Will Grier.
Because he's back on the practice squad if they elevate him again. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. I'm not sure what's going to happen. But again, I want a situation where Bailey Zappe's in the game and he's not looking over his shoulder at Mac Jones. Now, if he's looking over his shoulder at Malik Cunningham, like whatever, dude, that's on him. But
yeah,
at this point, I would almost rather Malik Cunningham, not almost, I would rather Malik Cunningham than Bailey Zappe at this point because I just think, why not? Like, let's just get crazy with it and let's see what happens, I think we know what we're going to get from Bailey Zappe. But at the same time, I do think so. I listen to Part of My Take, and I'm sure a lot of people out there do too. It's like the number 2 sports podcast in the entire world, perhaps even the number 1 sports podcast in the entire world. And they were saying, Hank, who's a Patriots fan, and the other 2 guys are not, right? Big Cat and PFT are not Patriots fans, and they were like, "F you, dude! Like you're doing it right. You're tanking. Like you're tanking. Like well, you're doing it. Like the Patriots have always been this good team. They've always been great. Then since Brady left, it's like they've been middle of the road. So you have these like mid-tier picks, which don't get you anywhere. And now you're just completely bottoming out in this draft where you have, it looks like, multiple first-round quarterback talents that are legit players that can change your franchise. I think if you get Caleb Williams, he's going to change your franchise. I don't know if I feel the same way. Well, that's the thing. I don't know if I feel the same way about Drake May. But he might change your franchise if you get him. I think that you're seeing a lot of buzz about these guys now. Like Mitch Trubisky, I don't know. Did anyone talk about Mitch Trubisky when he was in college, his senior year or his final year in college?
Not the way they've talked about either of these top 2 guys this year.
So, and I guess people didn't talk about Mahomes either, I suppose, right? But like Mahomes wasn't that good in college.
When Mahomes was good in college. The team around him was
bad.
Awful.
Which is what,
you're not going to talk a lot about a quarterback who's losing games, 65-45 on the regular.
Right. No,
even though he's commanding offenses to score that much.
Yeah.
Well, and I think you kind of have to thread this line right now for the Patriots too, especially when you're this close, and that you want the draft capital. You want that. Mm-hmm. But also you can't look like you're trying to lose. You still need the locker room bought in a certain amount. So you have to try to win. You have to show to your locker room that you're trying to win while also losing.
Right. Which they did well. They did that well on Sunday. Like they competed till the end, and then they missed the field goal.
Well, like 5 of their last 6 games decided by like a score or something like that, and then they were like 1-4 in those. It's something along those lines. That's how you do it. That's how you never want to tank because you'd like to have good players.
Right.
And I will say, if the Patriots win games down the stretch, and it's because young players start showing something, like if they won a game down the stretch because Tyquan Thornton had a breakout game and all of a sudden you felt like you could count on him for next year, I will take that over the difference between the number 4 and the number 6 pick or whatever it would end up being, something like that. But, do we think that's like the Christian Barmore, I think, has already broken out. He's really good.
Yeah.
And the other breakout candidates, Mac Jones is on the bench. Christian Gonzalez is on injured reserve. Cole Strange, I think, is a guy you'd love to break out, but I don't think him individually breaking out is going to win you games down the stretch with what the rest of the team is. And man, that's your first rounders, and it's kind of a wasteland beyond that. Keon White, I think, breaking out would be really nice here. That's something you'd like to see,
really
especially
good on Sunday.
Yeah, and he and Anthony Jennings, which I do wonder how much of that is just the Giants' offensive line, because I think I was listening to Andrew Callahan's podcast the other day, and they were mentioning about how Jalen Hyatt has a breakout game for the Giants, and Anthony Jennings and Keon White and Barmore all for the Patriots. So I'm like, are these breakout games, or are these just guys who have been like kind of, not Barmore, but the other 3 have been kind of mediocre, finally going up against bad players, being able to take advantage of it? It feels a little bit more like that. So we'll see what happens down the stretch here. But yeah, it's such a weird feeling when you hit, like, this time of year for the last 2 decades for Patriots fans. Like, look at this game on the schedule. We're after Thanksgiving. It's your first Sunday in December. You got a warm weather football team that plays in a dome with a flashy quarterback and a head coach on the hot seat coming in. This is the type of game where for 2 decades, it's 20 degrees on Sunday, it's snowing, and it's 21-0 by the end of the first quarter type of thing. Yeah, and the Chargers are like 6-point favorites. Like, it's amazing how that turns. It's amazing. It's probably the wrong word for it, but being on the other side of this, and like, I still think they can win this game, but
I mean, this team lost 34-0 to the Saints. The Saints are terrible. Like, that's a bad team that you lost 34-0 to. So, like, it's just, you see that stuff happen, and Dallas killed you. Dallas is a good team. So, like, but it's that situation where you look at it and you just say, man, like, this team isn't good. They're just not good, right? And that's you don't have the players. And look, and Matt Menino's talking about, which I agree with him. Like, Belichick doesn't want to lose. He wants to pass Shula. I totally understand that. But at the same time, what's he going to do? Like, this roster stinks. There's not a ton of talent here. But what's interesting about that, and we say there's not a lot of talent, but then you look at it and say, okay, how good was Jacoby Myers last year? He was fine. But he wasn't like amazing. We weren't like, oh my God, we have to have this guy back.
He looked like a good wide receiver too. And
he looks significantly better this year in Oakland, in Vegas. I think he looks significantly better.
He looks twitchier. He looks quicker. That's one thing I do wonder here about the strength and conditioning program, because we've had this issue with a couple of those slot guys where it looks like they're going for the big slot guy, and you get guys who weren't as twitchy. And I just wonder what they're prioritizing there. Welcome back, Thad. I really do wonder what they're prioritizing there in their wide receiver development, and if they're over prioritizing, muscle development and strength instead of some of the quick twitch stuff that you might need,
which is so strange because they've always been about those quick twitch guys, Edelman, Welker, those guys. You know what I mean?
And I wonder if Bill learned the wrong lessons after 2018, and not even the wrong lessons. I mean, I think the lesson that he learned was we can bully teams, we can get physical, and as the league zigs into passing offenses and light fronts and all that, we can zag into a power running game that is going to be able to feast on these light boxes. And that, to an extent, is what the Lions have done, and they've been successful with it.
Right.
And, the Eagles, too, they run the ball exceptionally well, albeit with a running quarterback. But, I think they've pushed for that, and the guys haven't been good enough. I mean, Sonny Michel, N'Keal Harry, Isaiah Wynn, like, that's all in that direction, and it just didn't work.
I just think the biggest difference between that is that, in there, you're the Eagles, you trade up to draft Devonta Smith, the Heisman Trophy winning wide receiver who's super skinny. You trade a first-round pick for A.J. Brown. You know what I mean? Like, you're not... And
the Lions got Jameson Williams.
Have drafted Jameson Williams in the first round. They drafted Amon-Ra St. Brown. It was fourth round, but still, you draft a guy like Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Pats got Taekwondo traded up to draft.
Very true. Very true. And so, there are certainly similarities, and you're not wrong. And I thought that that's what they were doing in 2020 when they were, trying to do that. And I thought they were doing it in 2021. And they've kind of continued on that path. It just doesn't work if you don't have the passing game. You have to have the passing game too.
And they don't even have the basic fundamentals on the offensive line to do that, because that's part of what made the 2020 offense work when it worked, was that offensive line, especially when it was healthy, it was banged up for a lot of the year, but it was healthy, was very good. And when you have that and like a mobile quarterback and stuff, you can get push on the ground. And even the 2020, the 2021 offensive lines were very good. And how many times have we said on here that failing to invest in those guys and instead trying to move on to a new wave of guys has not worked out for them at all on that stretch. And
100%.
You can't. This offensive line just isn't good enough right now.
Yeah.
Although, hey, City So is playing well at right guard.
City So is playing well at right guard, and I'll tell you what, man. We'll get into it when we get into mock drafts, but as I'm looking at mock drafts and as I'm looking at what the Patriots can draft and what they need to draft, I'm looking at the tackle situation. And I know there's some really good tackles out there. Don't get me wrong. I think the first two Fashanu from Penn State. I think it's Fashanu, right? From Penn State.
Mm-hmm.
And Joe Alt from Notre Dame, who's like
Mm-hmm.
6'8", 315. Is an absolute monster. I like those guys a lot. But if I'm drafting at 2 or 3 and I have a shot at either Caleb Williams or Marvin Harrison Jr., I'm sorry. Like, I'm taking Caleb Williams or Marvin Harrison Jr. So the more I look at mock drafts, the more I'm kind of like, maybe it's not a bad idea to sign Mike Onwenu and Trent Brown. Now you have your tackles set. Now you can draft a tackle a little bit later on in the draft in the 3rd, 4th round and kind of try to develop someone that can eventually take over for Trent Brown. But you sign Trent Brown to a 2-year deal, maybe a 3-year deal. Sign Mike Onwenu to whatever the hell he wants because he's your best offensive lineman, and he's been really good at right tackle. And so now you solidify that position on both sides of the ball, right? On both sides of the line, I should say. I'm sorry. And you have City So at right guard, who I think has played well. You have Cole Strange, who looked okay, who's looked pretty good at left guard, I think. And then you got to worry about center. Hopefully Jake Andrews can take over if David Andrews doesn't come back next year. And now your offensive line, you feel good about it. You feel pretty good about where you are with your offensive line. And so I think that as I've done more of these mock drafts, I've started to look at it and say, maybe it's not the worst idea. Let's keep those tackles in place. And then we don't have to worry about drafting a tackle. We don't have to trade back up into the 1st round or trade back up into the 2nd round, to get one of those guys. We can just draft the guys that we want, whether it be a quarterback or a wide receiver, and not worry about the tackle position.
Yeah. No, and I think there's merit to that 100%. And it's funny because offensive line isn't bad. They're just not great right now. And they're super inconsistent. I'll go through right now, and I know it's not perfect, but I'll look at PFF's grades because I feel like that's a decent place to start for this discussion. Mike Onwenu is their 26th best tackle, so that's kind of a low end starter.
Yep.
They've got City So at 22nd for guard, low end starter.
Now David Andrews. I'm sorry to interrupt. Is that every guard or right guard and right tackle?
All of the players of that position.
Right. So it's a mid. If you're in the 20s, you're talking about a mid-tier guy, right? There's 64 starting players, right?
It's like a lower tier tackle 1, a higher tier tackle 2 type of guy.
2. Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then David Andrews, 9th, so he's a top 10 center. Cole Strange is 33rd right now, and that's kind of buoyed by his run blocking grade. His pass blocking grade has been very bad. He's 19th in run block, 61st in pass blocking.
Not great.
Yeah. And so he's 11th in run block, 53rd in pass block. Yeah. So that's where you start having those issues. Onwenu is solid on both fronts. You don't have to worry about him there. Andrews slightly worse with the pass blocking. Connor McDermott, they have as your starting left tackle right now, and he's got a grade of 71.9, which is about what Onwenu has this year.
Yeah.
And he's not ranked because he doesn't have enough snaps. And Trent Brown, when he's healthy, is a top 10 tackle according to them.
Yeah.
So I was like, all right, it's a good line. The only issue is that there's 2 issues. One, you don't have any like super high end guys. Your highest end guy is Trent Brown, and you don't feel great about him. You want Trent Brown to be your 3rd or 4th best offensive lineman, not your best.
Right.
And the flip side, the other thing, the number 2, was that your weak link is the guy you just used a 1st round pick on in Cole Strange.
Right.
So that's the one guy where it's harder to bring in somebody for that spot. But it's also, I think, if you re-sign your 2 tackles here, assuming they want to come, and I think you'd re-sign Connor McDermott as a swing guy too, with how he's looked.
Yeah.
Then you're looking at probably signing a guy who you think can be competitive with Cole Strange for that left guard spot. And you're also probably still drafting a guard. And you go into next year and you don't love your offensive line, but you think it can be a top 20, maybe top 15 unit in the league. And then, you go from there. If you land the QB and wide receiver in this draft or whatever, then you can go offensive tackle the next year because you don't have a long-term solution at left tackle. Trent Brown's not the guy long-term. He's just a really, really, really good Band-Aid.
Yeah, well, and I think what it comes down to, too, is that you can take a shot at guard. I think you also take a shot at tackle. Just take a shot at it in 3rd or 4th round. Why not? Because it becomes a situation where it's like you just want more guys And who knows? Maybe you get to that 4th round pick and you hit on a guy in the 4th round, and all of a sudden it's like, oh my goodness, this guy's really good. He can take over Trent Brown. Maybe he can't take over right away in his rookie year, and that's why he's going in the 4th round. But he can take over 2 years into his career, and now Trent Brown gets to walk away, or you get to let Trent Brown walk, or you trade him for something.
Yeah.
And this guy steps in as your starting left tackle, right? And so I just think, the Patriots did this with the tight end position where they ignored it for way too long. They ignored it. They didn't pay attention to it. They thought they knew they had Gronk. They should have been drafting guys. You should have drafted Dallas Goedert. Should have, right? You should have drafted Dallas Goedert. You should have drafted Mike Gesicki. You should have drafted some of these guys when they came out. You didn't. So then, Gronk walks, and listen, I'll be the first to tell you I think Gronk screwed the Patriots in the way he left. But regardless, Gronk walks, and you left with nothing at tight end. And so now you're like, okay, well, now what? Right? And so you got to scramble to do it. The Patriots just did it at tackle, right? They just did it. They didn't have a right tackle. And they signed two guys that were, shots in the dark, but they ignored the position for too long. They should have been drafting tackles all along. Now, they drafted a first-round tackle in 2018. The guy didn't pan out, right? You drafted another guy, Andrew Stuber, I know, in the 6th round last year. That didn't pan out, right? So you drafted guys that didn't pan out, but I'm talking about like a mid-round pick. Look what they did with backup quarterbacks forever. They did it with Brady on the roster forever.
Yeah, just throw a draft pick. The position.
Some of them were fine, and a lot of them stunk, but you had guys that you could potentially rely on if you needed to. You didn't have any of those guys at tackle, and so you have to have these guys behind that can at least play. Connor McDermott needs to come back because at least he can play in a pinch. You don't want him as your starting left tackle. But if he had to start for a game or two, you can live with that.
He's a fine swing tackle. He can play either side. He can also play guard, I think, if you need him to.
Yeah.
So he's like, all right, he's just a versatile offensive lineman who can do a lot of things for you and has chemistry with the guys on the line. That's valuable to have in the building and as a teaching
100%.
tool for the young guys too. So I think he's a guy. I don't think he's gonna be that expensive. You keep him around.
Yeah.
And then you go from there and you see what it looks like. I think.
Yeah.
In an ideal world, you're able to do what the Seahawks did last year, which is they went into that draft needing 2 tackles. You use a first-round pick on one Charles Cross, who pans out immediately and plays well. And your other pick on, I think it was a 4th rounder, on Abe Lucas, who also turns into an instant quality starter. Right. And that's hard to do. I've mentioned it before on the show. We've talked about it. You got to get lucky at some point in this rebuilding process. You got to get somebody to spot in the draft where teams aren't usually getting that caliber of player or that type of position. You
100%.
don't usually draft quality tackles outside of the 1st round. But I mean, we've seen the Pats do it. Marcus Cannon, who was here for a while, was a guy they were able to get later. And the fact that you can get a starting quality tackle that late frees up your 1st-round pick to do other things with. And that's what's going to have to happen here. So I think step 1 is you got to hit on your 1st rounder because we can't. No more of this drafting bad players. So you have to get a really good player there. But then you want to come away from a draft in here with 4 quality starters and one of them being a Pro Bowl type guy. That's how you kickstart the rebuilding process.
And so I think we may have had that this year, right? I know Christian Gonzalez is hurt, but he looks to be that Pro Bowl caliber player. That's what he seemed like for the first 3 games at least, right? Seems like that type of player, has the athleticism to do it, can play different positions, can be man, can be in, zone and has good instincts and whatever, right? So looks like he's that guy. Keon White has come along the last few weeks. Seems like he's a pretty good player. Sidney So looks like he can be a reliable starting right guard for you, right? So you look at some of the players they drafted and you're saying, okay, I can see it. They're not superstars, and Christian Gonzalez might be a superstar, but outside of Gonzalez, they're not necessarily superstars, but they're good players. 2022's draft, I don't know. I guess Cole Strange is fine at left guard. I love Marcus Jones. You know that. But, how much does Marcus Jones impact your offense or your defense? I mean, he does. He impacts your defense a little bit, but is he going to impact your defense to the point where you're like, all right, he's going to make a Pro Bowl? Now, I know he was an All-Pro his rookie year as a return guy, and that's important. But, it's not so important that you're like, oh my God, this guy's a hit in the draft just because of that,
Especially if you take 2 corners in the draft and you end up with one guy who's off the roster by the end of year 2 and another guy who can't start for you.
Right.
You don't feel good about that when they're early. Was it third and fourth round picks there?
Third and fourth round picks, yeah. And then, your second round pick is a disaster. And, it's just, and so you look at the draft that I thought was going to be pretty good. I liked what they did with it. And I'm looking at it saying, man, that's a letdown. 2021 turns out to be a letdown. Obviously, they got Ramondre, but like outside of that, that's a tough draft class, right? So it's like you keep going back and you're like, all right, I thought these guys are going to be good. They're not, right? And so that's where it becomes difficult. Now, you've gotten contributions from guys like Anthony Jennings, which helps you. But Anthony Jennings isn't like an every down starter. He's not like a great player or anything like that.
He's a rotational edge. He's a run stuffing edge. You're going to put him in for packages in games.
Yep. And there's value at that for sure. But a third round pick on that, it's not great. And Matt's right that you had Barmore in 2021 as well. So there are some hits. There are some hits in there, but not enough to be a competitive team right now. And so you have to have a really solid draft this upcoming year. And you also have to work on development. Like, I'm sorry, Troy Brown's not getting it done. He's not getting it done. No. Now, maybe Adrian Clem. I'm seeing a little bit more from Adrian Clem.
Is he back with the team? Have we gotten? I don't know if we have an answer on that.
That's a great point. I don't know if he is back with the team or not.
I haven't seen. I'll have to ask somebody. I haven't seen anybody mention that one way or the other since it was announced he was gone.
But either way, the offensive line, which maybe is Billy Yates again, is thrust into the offensive line coach again. I think has done a pretty good job, right? They've done an okay job with the talent they have. But it's develop those young guys because the development is huge. I mean, Josh Allen's the poster child for development. I mean, here's a guy, he got drafted out of Wyoming. He couldn't hit water if he fell out of a boat. Like he just was the most inaccurate quarterback I've ever seen. And I remember going to games and my dad and I would be like, this kid's a hell of an athlete. He can't play quarterback, but he's a hell of an athlete. And they sat him down and he figured it out. And they said, listen, you got to take less chances and you got to do this and you have to do that. Now, you got Stephon Diggs, which helped quite a bit. Okay. But still, they showed him how to play the game. They developed him into the player that he is right now. And yes, it takes a lot of hard work from him, but that's coaching. That's what you have to do. And the Patriots haven't done that with any of the guys they've drafted in the past 5 years, 10 years even.
It feels like we've been waiting on those second and third year leaps from players consistently and not getting them for a while. Right. I mean, even look at Kyle Duggar this year.
Yeah.
He has been just fine. You expected him to be a breakout Pro Bowl safety this year, and instead he's not even the best safety in the room. He is right. And I think the other thing, it's like the guys they drafted this year, Keon White had, I think his best game of the season was in week 1, and we haven't seen him play that well since. I don't know what's going on there. Marty Mapu can't get on the field. And I liked both of those picks at the time. And I think, this isn't like 2022 where they were massively reaching on guys. These were both. White was a guy who I think they drafted later than people thought he might go.
To New York.
Yeah, and then first round pick. Mapu was a slight reach based on like some of the consensus boards, but also according to like all of the NFL draft insiders, Mapu was higher on NFL boards than media boards. So I don't think he was an actual reach on how teams thought he was going to be. And I think Mapu was a guy who was always going to be better in years 2 and 3, just given the position he plays and the leap he was taking. But Keon White is like 24, almost 25 years old now. He's a guy who played in college, I think, for 5 or 6 seasons. Coming into the NFL, right. You draft a guy at that age, I think you expect him to be really good right away. And this is, I think, one of the concerns with their draft process, too. They've drafted a lot of older players. The issue with drafting older players is that if you're an older player in college, you're playing against 18, 19, 20-year-olds, and you're 22 or 23, you're going to have an advantage. And it doesn't say as much about if you're okay and then you break out as a 22-year-old, that tells me that you're a man now against boys, and that's probably why you're doing it. And they've drafted a lot of guys who aren't bad players when they get to the NFL, but they are very much just good players, and they'll only ever be just good players.
Right.
And that's completely fine when you've got, Brady, Gronk, McCourty out there, Hightower, and you've got all these elite players, and they just have to fill in the cracks, but it's not when you're expecting them to be cornerstone guys.
That's correct. Yeah. And that's one of the things about Christian Gonzalez, right? He was 20 when they drafted him. He turned 21.
Yes. And that
after the draft. It was great. Yeah. So, by the way, thank you, Matt. Play Mapu at linebacker. That's it. Play him at linebacker. So, I've been saying that for a while. All right. Let's Let's take a break. When we come back, let's do some mock draft stuff because we've been talking about the draft. We've been going around it. We had some people send in some mock drafts. I have some kind of mock draft ideas. That we got. Oh, we got a Patriots fan from Brazil. Thanks for coming, Anderson. Appreciate
Thank you,
it.
Anderson. I love it.
Hello to Brazil out there. All right, let's get an ad, and then we'll be back with the rest of the show. We'll do some mock draft stuff, and then we'll get into the our final few segments here. Score early this NFL season with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 money line bet. That's $150 if your team wins. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action. The app is so easy to use. There's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. So visit FanDuel.com/Boston and kick off the NFL season. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. MA 21 plus and present in Mass. Hope is here. First online real money wager only. $5 pre-game money line wager required. First online real money wager only. $10 first deposit required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire 7 days after receipt. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. GamblingHelpLineMA.org or call 1-800-327-5050 for 24/7 support. Play it smart from the start. GameSenseMA.com or call 1-800-GAM-1234. All right, so let's get into some mock draft stuff here. We had some people send us a few mock drafts. Shout out to Wes Burrow and Thad Skywalker, who's in the chat right now, for sending in some mock drafts. We have some mock drafts too that I've been just kind of kicking around a little bit, just based on where things have kind of shaken out. It's just interesting just to see. So,
which one do we want to start with?
Whichever one, just pick one. I'm down with whichever one's fine with me.
All right, we had someone submit 3, I think you said. So we'll start with those.
Wes submitted 3. Love it.
All right, we'll start with you, Wes. Yeah, we'll go with this one first. He's got a trade back here for the Patriots, taking Drake May at 6, Graham Barton, tackle from Duke, at 33, Tyler Nubin, safety from Minnesota, at 35, Jeremiah Trotter, linebacker from Clemson, at 67, Tez Walker, wide receiver from North Carolina, at 79, and Christian Mahogany, the guard from BC, at 138. What do you think, Pat?
Christian Mahogany, what a name. Also, Jeremiah Trotter Jr., are you serious right now? Are you serious? Jeremiah Trotter Jr.? Like, I remember Jeremiah Trotter. Like, this is where now we're getting old. Like, I'll speak for myself here. But now I'm getting old, and it's like Jeremiah Trotter Jr. I'm like, wait, I remember Jeremiah Trotter. Dude was a beast. He was a beast. But no, listen, this is one of those things, right, where we talk about, the tackle situation, and obviously it looks like he got to move back from 3 to 6. He got 6, 33, and 79, I would assume, right? And so this is a situation where you're getting the quarterback that you probably would have taken at 3 if you're there. You're getting an extra pick at the top of the first round, and you're getting an extra pick at, the mid-tier of the third round as well. I love it. It's one of those situations where, yes, I get it. We're like another safety, but like, yes, another safety. Why not? Like a safety and think about this. You're drafting a quarterback, a tackle, and a wide receiver, and you're also drafting a safety, a linebacker, and a guard. Like, that's awesome. That seems like we're just filling new holes. Like, I love it.
Yeah, and it's safety could be a team need depending on what happens with Kyle Ducker here in free agency as well, and Jabril Peppers. It's fun. They've invested so much of the position, and somehow you can argue there's still a need there. I like the tackle. Here's the thing. I don't think you were trading back and getting Drake May. I don't think that is realistic, unfortunately. And I'm not a Drake May guy, but if you were able to trade back and get him at 6, I can get on board with that. Tez Walker at 79, I'd love to. Yeah. He just has question marks because he hasn't played a ton. He got hurt immediately after being eligible at UNC. So question marks there. You get interior offensive line there. I don't know much about Christian Mahogany, although I love the name. That's a guy I'm going to have to get into here. So I like what's going on here. There's a lot to like. There might be some other better ones, though, coming up. Let's go to the second one sent in here.
Oh, God.
Got Marvin Harrison Jr., J.J. McCarthy, Zach Zinter. It's listed here as a tackle, but I think he's a guard from Michigan. Will Shipley, running back from Clemson. Malachi Moore, safety from Bama. Jason Marshall Jr., corner from Florida. Patrick Payton, edge from Florida State. Mario Williams, wide receiver from USC. Luke Lackey, tight end from Iowa. And Tyreen Powell, linebacker from Rutgers.
So, obviously, Marvin Harrison Jr., I mean, come on now.
Yes.
I'm still not sold on J.J. McCarthy. I don't know. Maybe he'll be good. Maybe he won't. I'm not sure. The Zach Zinter thing, I don't know if he's going to drop further than that. He just broke his leg this weekend. So I don't know.
Yeah, it looked bad too. They refused to show a replay on the broadcast for that one.
Yeah, I went back and watched it just because I was like, okay, I'm just curious, like just real time, because you can't, I didn't want to see it slow motion, but just real time. And I'm like, oh God, it was bad. So the pick here that's interesting for me and something that maybe, and maybe people have looked at it, maybe they haven't, but the Luke Lackey pick at 194, here's a guy who went into the season, looked like he was going to be another one of those Iowa tight ends. And it was like, oh, here comes another one, like another Iowa tight end that's going to come out and dominate in the NFL. And, what happens? Well, he gets hurt week one, like right away. He gets hurt, out for the year. And so now he's a guy that hasn't had them, right? And so I love it. I love that pick. I would love for them to take a guy like that because they don't have a lot of stability at tight end. Now, maybe they sign Gesicki or Henry for next year, but they're both up.
Pharaoh Brown. Bring back the Pharaoh.
They do have Pharaoh Brown. I like Pharaoh Brown a lot. Maybe not as a number one tight end, though. But nevertheless, I do like him quite a bit. But I like taking a shot on a guy like that, yes, he was hurt. He's dealt with some injury history for sure at Iowa, but he looks like one of those kind of next guys. And you say, well, yeah, okay. Wait. No. Like every tight end that comes out of Iowa is good. I know Noah Fant took a while, but like Noah Fant, TJ Hawkinson, Sam Laporta this year, George Kittle, like all of them, every single one of them looks good. So like I'm willing to take a shot at a guy that played tight end at Iowa.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to end up coming out this year, is my guess. Do we know? With that injury, I wouldn't be shocked if he stays another year.
Right.
Yeah. The top couple in this draft, I think if you can get JJ outside of the first round, I can get on board with it.
Yeah.
Zinter is just, very like Michigan offensive linemen have routinely come out as very good prospects, and I like him. Shipley as a running back, I like, and I think that's a fit for what they need. Malachi Moore, I like, and I think he's a fit. After that, I don't know as much about some of these guys, but this wouldn't be my personal ideal way to go in the draft, but I don't dislike it at all. I just have enough question marks about J.J. McCarthy that I'm not entirely sure how I feel about him.
Yeah. Yep.
Should we go to third one here?
Let's do it. Last one.
So we did quarterback, we did wide receiver. Let's go tackle at the top. We got Olu Fashanu, tackler from Penn State, a trade up to 22 to take Brock Bowers, the tight end from Georgia. Another trade up, I think, or is there a trade back? This might all come from a trade back.
I think it was a trade back to 4. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. At 56, edge Jack Sawyer from Ohio State, quarterback Jordan Travis from Florida State, Ladd McConkey, wide receiver from Georgia, Sam Hartman, quarterback Notre Dame, Joshua Gray, offensive tackle, Oregon State, and Jaden Hicks, safety from Washington State. I don't think there's a chance that Brock Bowers is there at 22, but if there is, I love this.
Yeah, I agree. Well, and the other interesting thing about this for me is like Olu Fashanu, and again, we talk about this already. We talked about this already where you say Olu Fashanu, all right, do you need the tackle? Do you not need the tackle? If you don't re-sign one of those guys, he looks like a guy that you could just plug in at left tackle and he's starting right away, right? He looks like that type of guy. Now, I don't know if that's going to be the case, but that's what he looks like. Brock Bowers, of course, a tight end, and he was a beast. But then, like, Jack Sawyer's really good. He's a really good edge for Ohio State. Like, he's good. And then I like the idea that you're taking 2 shots at quarterback. Now, remember back in the day, Washington took RG3 number 2 and then took Kirk Cousins in the 4th round. So, of course, a little different now. You're taking Jordan Travis, in the 3rd round, and you're taking Sam Hartman in the what, fifth or sixth round, whatever 181 is, right? But so obviously it's a little bit different, but still you're giving yourself multiple players to look at, right? And of course, for Washington, both those guys panned out. And of course, RG3 gets hurt and his career is ruined. But Kirk Cousins is still in the league, so it's one of those things where, hey, take a shot at two guys. Why not? Why not draft two guys? Especially if you're this devoid of talent at quarterback, the most important position on the field, take a shot at two of them.
Yeah. Well, I also Jordan Travis is interesting because he's another guy in here coming off of injury, and I'm not sure where he's going to end up going in the draft as a result of that. I haven't watched his tape yet, so I can't comment on that specifically. But
right,
athletic guy, Florida State's undefeated right now. He's done a good job there. Lad McConkey, I really like. I mean, if there's a world where the Patriots come out of this draft with a tackle like Olu, you still get Brock Bowers, you get a wide receiver like McConkey, and Jack Sawyer as an edge would be a great fit for this team.
Yeah.
Even if you miss on the quarterback there, those other four guys I'd feel good about as building blocks on an offense. I think you're still looking for a true wide receiver one, if that's the case, to complement all of that. But I feel good. And Joshua Gray, I like that as a sixth round tackle there. I think I like those odds.
Yeah. All about taking those shots, right? Taking those shots.
Yep.
So
should we look at Thad's draft here?
Do it.
All right, from Thad, this is just I think a 3-round mock.
I think 4,
3 or 4.
3.
Yeah.
Oh, you're right. 3. Yeah, 3.
Is it? No, it's got to be 4.
It's got to be 4 because 99, right? Some drafts include the comp picks, and some drafts don't. So this draft does not include the comp picks.
Yeah. He's got Marvin Harrison at 3. Jaden Daniels at 35, Tyler Guyton, the tackle from Oklahoma, at 78, and Chris Jenkins, the defensive tackle from Michigan, at 99, plus a trade back in there, picking up a 2024 Denver third. I think this is my favorite out of the bunch.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you get Jaden Daniels at 35, my goodness.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a steal and a half, right? I think I did my first mock draft. We talked about it on the show last week, but I did my first mock draft that came out on Thanksgiving, actually, and it was very similar to this, where of course I traded up for him, but still it was same thing, right? And so the idea is that you go up there and you get you go up there and you get the guy that you want, right? You draft the quarterback, and you also have the opportunity to draft who I think is the best player in the draft, right? I think Marvin Harrison Jr. is the best player in the draft. And so it's a little bit different because wide receivers, while important, if you don't have a quarterback that can throw in the ball, it makes it a lot more difficult, right? But, you draft a wide receiver and then you trade up for the quarterback. I love it.
Yeah, and I like the Chris Jenkins pick here a lot. Like, I'm skeptical about the quarterback at Michigan, but anybody on the line of scrimmage on either side of the ball for Michigan, I can get on board with the Patriots taking. Jenkins has been a monster for them, and I think, we haven't talked about it, but Tavon Godshaw has not been great. He's just fine. Lawrence Guy, getting older. Christian Barmore is awesome, but defensive tackle next to him is still very much an open spot right now in Jenkins. I like for that. Guyton I like here too, so I like this. Now, If we want to go do another mock draft here real quick, it's not one I'm going to pull up, but The Athletic today, Dane Brugler, who's one of the premier draft guys out there, did his first mock.
Yep.
And I got to find it in my tabs here. Here we go. He has Jaden Daniels going at number 7 overall to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Early. That's early. But,
that's almost to the point where we're talking about this being a 3-quarterback draft and not a 2-quarterback draft.
100%.
And
stuck on something
that changes the math of a lot of what happens. I also think it's funny. Malik Neighbors, his top receiver, also goes at 6 in this mock. And those are 2 guys I think anybody would like to pair up. And I think their success is tied together, and splitting them up, we're going to see how they do. But
agreed. Yeah, well, it is fascinating, right? When you look at what, where's a guy going to go, right? And all it takes is one team. All it takes is one team. If they fall in love with Jaden Daniels, then he's going top 10 just because that team falls in love with him and says, we have to get this guy. We're drafting him here, right? Look at Darnell Wright. Darnell Wright last year was, projected to be a second-round pick. He goes at number 9 overall, right, or 10 overall to Chicago. He's playing well, right? And so it gets to be that situation where it takes one team to fall in love with a guy. They draft him, and we go there. So, it becomes that type of situation. Jaden Daniels is an interesting guy because he has a lot of arm strength, but he also has a lot of, running ability, which is what the NFL right now at the quarterback position wants, right? And so I think it's an interesting look into what you're going to have to do to get a quarterback. And at the same time, not all drafts like 2021, where you have 4 quarterbacks go in the top 15. That doesn't happen very often. And so it might happen, but it also might not happen. Michael Penix Jr. could drop. Jane Daniels could drop a little bit. Bo Nix, I think, certainly should drop. You know what I mean? So I think we'll see kind of where it goes.
Yeah. Yeah, and I believe this is a 4 QB first as I scroll through here. I believe McCarthy. Yeah, McCarthy to the Seahawks at 22. So there's your 4 in the first. Now this one, we didn't even mention who it has the Patriots taking. Has it number 1, Caleb Williams to the Bears. Number 2, Marvin Harrison Jr. to the Cardinals. And at pick 3, Drake May to the Patriots, which, we've said our piece, or at least I've said my piece so far on Drake May, but, I'm going to watch more tape before I finalize my opinions on anybody. I'm going to go through stuff. I haven't gone through my whole process yet.
Yep. True. I think, by the way, Thad corrected me. There were 5 quarterbacks that won the top 15 in 2020 when he's right about that. So, you get the top 3, Justin Fields, and then Mac. Yeah.
So if they're at 3, Marvin Harrison Jr. is off the board and Drake May is there, I think that's a spot where I would trade back probably, or just take. I like Jaden Daniels better from what I've seen. But yeah, I don't know.
Well, I'll tell you, I really do think it's does he have Nix or Penix in the first round? Don's asking.
Not that I saw.
He doesn't, right? I didn't think so.
I believe it's just the 4. Yeah, just the 4 quarterbacks in the first round.
So the pick that I've been looking at, right, is the Bears. The Bears right now are 4. If you stay at 3 and the Bears stay at 4, would they give you the 2025 second round? They have Carolina's second round pick in 2025. Mm-hmm. Would they give you the 25 second round pick to move from 4 to 3? Right? And maybe they'll throw something else in.
Yeah.
Right? Something small. Because that's an interesting pick for me. You pick up an extra pick, which is probably going to be pretty high, I would think. Because Carolina just doesn't look like a good football team. Now, maybe they get a new coach and things look different. There's a report that just came out. Literally, Schefter just sent it out that Ben Johnson is probably going to be the front runner for that job in Carolina. Now, he turned down a second interview this year, which is part of the reason why they hired that freaking bum Frank Reich. That, maybe he'll want to go there next year. I don't know. Maybe he will. If he does, maybe they'll be better than they were this year. I have no idea, right? But it seems like, why not? If you don't love Drake May or whatever, now you move to 4. Well, if Chicago drafts Caleb Williams number 1 overall, they're not taking Drake May at 3 anyways. So you can move back, similar to what you did this year. You can move back, pick up some extra picks, and draft the guy you were going to draft at 3 anyways, at 4. Now, maybe you love, you're in love with someone else and they take him. I don't know. But that's one of those interesting things. Now, listen, and Lowe mentions it here. Carolina's got a weak schedule. I think Carolina, if I'm the Patriots right now, right, if you don't win another game, you get the number 2 pick because you have a better strength of schedule number than Arizona, which means
by better we mean weaker.
Weaker, correct. You have a weaker strength of schedule, which is interesting because the Patriots have a tough schedule, but nevertheless.
So it's based on a win-loss record, so the Bills kind of falling apart like they have.
Very true.
A reason for that.
And it's win-loss record when you played them, is it not? Not overall, right?
I believe it's overall.
Well, maybe it is overall. Okay, so either way.
So those divisional opponents losing games helps them because it hurts the strength of schedule double.
Right. True. Good point. So fine. Okay. So, but if that's the case, if you look at it, and if Carolina wins one game, they just got to win one game. Then there's a chance you get the number one you get the number one pick. And if you get the number one pick, I think that you get that interim bump, right? I think you get an interim bump. That's it, right? And TJ just literally said this exact same thing as I was saying it. And so, like, you know, you get that interim bump if Carolina wins a game and you have that number one pick. And, you know, and Shooter McGavin's over here. He's 100% right. The Jets week 18, you don't lose to the Jets ever. They're going to be starting Tim flipping Boyle. Maybe they start Aaron Rodgers. You never know, right? Like, I don't know. Maybe you combat that game and you start Mac Jones instead. I mean, I don't know. You know, and you say, screw it. We're gonna put Malik Cunningham at quarterback and throw it 3 times like we did, you know, down in Miami in 2015.
Well, the nice thing right now is that because the Bears won, the Patriots can win any game for the rest of the season and remain in the top 3 at worst.
That's true. That's also true.
That means you're either in a QB or a Marvin Harrison Jr. spot. And if you come away with any of those guys, I think you're happy. And it's, you know, if this becomes a 3 QB draft and people think Jaden Daniels is a top 3 QB and you're at 3 and you'd rather go QB than Marvin Harrison Jr. because you think he's that guy, then, you know, you have that option too. If that's the point we get to by draft day. Which is funny because that's kind of what happened with Anthony Richardson last year, that rise up. And he had looked inconsistent, but you saw the flashes before he got hurt this year. So we'll see what happens between now and April, because we know there's going to be a lot of noise and a lot of smoke screens, and the draft order is going to matter a ton. But you got wiggle room here where you lose out, you can have the number one pick and you can still win a game and feel good about your draft spot. And
well, that's the biggest thing. If you win a game and you're still at 3, you're okay. You know, you're all right. Now, if Carolina ends up winning a game or 2 and Arizona ends up winning a game and you could have been at 1 and you ended up at 3, that kind of sucks, right? It kind of sucks, but it is, you know, it is what it is. What are you going to do? You know what I mean? And you're in that no man's land, unfortunately, but it, you know, it's fine. Ultimately it is kind of what it is. I love the AR, you know, the AR thing that you mentioned, because I always felt like Richardson's just so good. Like, he has the talent, and maybe he doesn't have all those other skills, but he's got the talent. That's the way I feel about. That's 100% the way I feel about Caleb Williams. Just take him, just draft him.
Well, the thing about Caleb Williams too is that he was super good last year in the Heisman and all that. In this year, he's been essentially just as good. The pieces around him are just worse. So people have been acting like, oh, Caleb Williams, you know, he fell off. He's not as good anymore. He's not a Trevor Lawrence level prospect, but there is a little Trevor Lawrence in that, and how Lawrence started out really good, and then Clemson was slowly declining. He didn't hit those same peaks ever again. But I don't think the Jaguars regret drafting him. That's for sure.
No, and look, we haven't seen. I mean, Trevor Lawrence is good, but we haven't seen him be great yet. I don't think. I wouldn't put him as a top 10 quarterback in the NFL just yet. I think he's been good. It's hard because his first year was a complete disaster, and it's gotten better over time, but it's still not where you want it to be yet. I don't believe, at least now. But you know, they let some guys walk. Their offensive line hasn't been as great. Like, you know, the running game has been up and down. You know, with ETN getting, I think he missed a few games this year. So, like, it is what it is. You know what I mean? But I just think. I think
they hired Urban Meyer, and they got, and their first round pick in Trevon Walker has not been as good as they thought he was going to be either.
Why you took Trevon Walker over Aiden Hutchinson, I will never know. But if you want to die, just we'll
see. What I think Walker was probably the higher floor guy, in that you knew he was going to be an elite run defender, but you're projecting traits for the pass rush, and Hutchinson was kind of either it translates or it doesn't type of guy. He's either going to be a really good or it's just going to be a complete bust. So I get it, but it's unfortunate.
I agree. Don's got a great question here, and this is something that I've talked about before, but would anyone want to trade for Fields or Murray if Chicago or Arizona decided to go for a QB?
I have an opinion here.
Do it, because I do too.
Murray is a guy who really intrigues me here. There are question marks. I'm going to get that off right away. When he signed that contract in Arizona, they felt they needed to put a clause in there saying you need to study.
Yep.
And there have been complaints about his preparation habits. From what's been said, it's been better this year. he has said with the new coach there, he has enjoyed playing in the new system. Albert Breer was talking about how this is the first time since high school that Murray's played in a new offensive system. He's basically played in the same offense since he was a high schooler. Like, it's been the same thing. And how he has really enjoyed the process of learning something new and understanding it on the field and all that. So I think that's a step forward in maturity for him. And if Arizona wants to move on, you get a chance to get a guy who has shown he can be really good in the NFL for no dead cap for you. You have the money to, you have the cap space to absorb the salary, and you don't have to
100%.
worry about the bonuses or anything when it comes to Murray. And depending on how the draft plays out, you might be able to get him for cheap. If you're in a spot where if you're the Patriots and you're at 2 and the Cardinals are at 3,
Yep.
and the Cardinals want to come up for Caleb Williams or Drake May or whoever, and they're willing to include Kyler in that package, that intrigues me a ton. If you can come away from this draft with Kyler Murray and Marvin Harrison Jr., I think that is one of the better case scenarios for you. And the worst case is you're moving on from him after a year. Now, I caveat this with, you don't make this deal unless you can talk to Murray and be sure that he's going to be in on whatever you do. And he's going to know that if he's not bought in, this is a 1-year thing and he's out the door and he's looking for work somewhere else. Because
100%.
Quarterback's important. You need him to be a culture setter. He can't just be good enough for the culture. When it's new leadership coming in, he has to be a leader as part of that new culture.
Yeah, 100%. And I couldn't agree more. Here's the thing, right? $51 million cap hit next year. And you're like, oh my God, $51 million. That's outrageous. It is. It's an outrageous number. I agree. But you have $100 million in cap space. It's going to be fine. You can absorb that. You also, as you said, you have zero dead cap if you're the Patriots. So if you decide to move on from Kyler Murray, you can do so without taking any dead cap. Now, however, on the other side of it, Arizona, if they were to trade him this offseason, would take an $81 million dead cap hit. That's just, I don't know how they can survive that. I don't know how you could do that, right? And so, and maybe they can. Maybe they can afford to do that. I just don't know how. I don't know how you can justify doing that. Now, if you're Jonathan Gannon and you're looking at saying, we can't win with this guy, I can't have this guy as our quarterback, we got to get rid of him, it just is what it is, then fine, right, if that's the case. I think the more realistic option is Justin Fields. Justin Fields is heading into the last year of his contract, last year's rookie deal. Of course, you could sign him to a 5th-year option if you wanted, just like Mac Jones. But to me, I just think Fields kind of brings similar things to Kyler. Now, Kyler has shown he's a much better quarterback than Justin Fields in the NFL. That's for sure. I think you can get Justin Fields for almost nothing. They have the number 1 pick. If they draft Caleb Williams at number 1, they're going to want to move on from Justin Fields. So you can trade a 4th-round pick for Justin Fields, I think. I mean, he hasn't shown anything in the NFL where he's going to command more than that, in my opinion.
I think that would be the price for him because Trey Lance, with what he's done, got a 4th. So Fields is going to be a 4th or higher, I think.
Yep.
My issue with that is that I don't like the odds on him becoming a good quarterback. And I think you can get a quarterback that is probably of similar quality to Justin Fields without giving up any draft capital. I think you can get that guy in free agency. And I think I'd rather just sign the guy and not give up the draft capital than trade for him. Because I just don't think with better coaching, maybe Fields turns into something, but the Patriots need a lot of draft picks to fix what's wrong with this team.
I do agree. I agree with that. By the way, Thad Skywalker said this, and it is true. Jeff Howe just tweeted out that Bailey Zappe, and I quote, the Patriots are preparing for QB Bailey Zappe to start Sunday against Chargers. Per sources, it should be his job this week if all goes as expected, which basically means that Bailey Zappe is a starting quarterback, although Jeff Howe can't say that. Yeah. Jeff Howe can't say that definitively, but it is true.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's the smartest move here.
100%. Yeah.
I think it's similar stylistically to what you had. It's a guy who knows the system better than anybody in that building, not named Mac Jones. It's a guy who still has confidence left, and a guy who's bad enough that you're still going to lose games, but good enough that you can evaluate the rest of the guys around him. I think if you're trying to lose games, but do it with some sense of style, Bailey Zappe is absolutely the way to go.
I agree. So, and we'll see. Maybe if he is terrible this week, maybe Malik Cunningham comes in for him. and we see something out of Malik Cunningham, and he's starting next week in Pittsburgh. That'd be a lot of fun. That'd be wild on a Thursday night.
There's no
Malik
shot
Cunningham a short week.
There's no shot. If Cunningham gets a start, it's going to be like the last 2 weeks. They're going to give Zappe some time here. I think. I think we see. Oh, I just realized Pats are about to be on Monday Night Football for Patrick Mahomes versus Bailey Zappe. Oh,
Woo.
like that's. Yeah, do you want to wrap Christmas presents for your kids, or do you want to watch Bailey Zappe versus Russell Wilson?
Hey man, got to do it. Got to do it for the job. That's the way it goes. I'll just do both. I'll find a way to do both. We'll be on the stream while we wrapping gifts.
Oh my goodness, we'll have to do some Christmas festivities. Which, by the way, we got our Christmas tree. Nice,
very nice.
Week.
We haven't gotten ours yet.
People.
I think we'll get it. We'll get them probably next weekend. Well, this weekend.
My girlfriend has never had a real tree in her life. She's always had a fake tree. This is the first time she's ever had a real tree.
Yeah, until I got married, I had never had a real tree either. I always had a fake tree with my parents, and I'm excited. I'm excited about that. So,
real trees are the best. That's where it's at.
It's great. They're great. They're awesome. So
the smell is just.
Yeah. By the way, I saw a few people mention that Fields to Atlanta would look good. I agree.
Yeah.
Atlanta is so much fun, and throwing Fields on that team would be great. So, anyways, all right. So we'll kind of go. I think we'll get into our last segments. Here's what I'll say about the mock drafts. I think it's funny, and I mentioned this at the beginning of the show, but as I've started to look at the mock drafts, I'm looking at it like, if this were Madden, right? If this were Madden, I'd trade all my picks for, number 1 and number 2 and draft Caleb Williams and Marvin Harrison Jr., right? Like I'd like trade all my guys and get the number 1 and number 2 pick and then go from there, right? So
I've been playing Madden this week, and that's actually exactly
what
I didn't do 1 and 2, but it was like it's like 7 and 12 or something, and I got the quarterback and I got the receiver I wanted, and
that's it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
and here I am I ended up getting a Super Bowl win over the Giants in that one in year 2 with the quarterback. So a little revenge on the G-men.
Well, but that's what I would, I'm looking at it like, man, all these guys are really good. And so then I'm looking at it saying, well, do I really want to take a tackle in the top 5, in the top 3? I mean, these guys could be really good, but I already have 2 pretty good tackles. I don't necessarily have to take a guy. I could take someone else. And so that's kind of where my head is at right now, because I'm looking at it saying, well, you could just sign the guys you have, and so that's the way it goes. And listen, fine, right? I know Bama Charlie's a Mac Jones guy. I get it. You're from Alabama. I don't blame you. It's not your fault. Patriots ruined Mac Jones. It's totally true. It's 100% true. Mm-hmm. Maybe Mac Jones will work out somewhere else better. But we also have to believe that it's going to be different coaching. It's going to be different coaching staff.
Yeah.
Things are going to be very different. And so the system's going to be different. You got to think that you're hiring the guy to draft the quarterback and then build your offense around him. Philadelphia drafted Jalen Hurts and then built their offense around him. They changed what they were doing offensively to jive with what Jalen Hurts was good at, right? Kansas City changed their offense to work off what Patrick Mahomes is good at. Buffalo changed their offense to work. So, you change your offense for the guy. That's what you do, right? The Patriots drafted Mac Jones because he fit their offense. Mm-hmm. And, of course, it didn't work out and whatever, right? But that's the idea. And so, I don't know. We'll see. But I think that's where this is headed, right? Is that Belichick leaves, we come in, the guy still might fail. Who knows? I have no idea. But you're at least getting something, and I think give me a quarterback that gives me it gets me into the 21st century. Give me a quarterback that can move. For God's sakes, give me a guy that can move.
Some arm strength, please.
Right. We need that. We need that.
And also, that's why I like Caleb Williams and I like Jaden Daniels. And maybe I'll be convinced on Drake May if I watch a little bit more and start to see what others are seeing. I don't think he's awful, but I think he's closer to like Jordan Love than Justin Herbert. And people have been talking about him like he's Justin Herbert, and I personally haven't seen that on his tape yet. I don't get that.
Yeah. Well, will Shador come out, and then Shador's an interesting option too. So we'll see.
And Penn Expo next later. That says Belichick would have wasted Jalen Hurts. I disagree there. I think Bill has kind of always liked the idea of a mobile quarterback, and he would have really, really. I think Hurts and Bill would get along incredibly well. I think that would work fantastically.
Yeah, and I also think too that he did it with Cam Newton in 2020. Now that offense was terrible; they had no weaponry, but that was a competent offense with a guy that couldn't throw the ball. So you know what I mean. So, anyways, all right, let's get into our final segments here. We're running long, but it's been fun. We're gonna get into
running long. Never.
I know it's crazy, isn't it? We're like, oh, it'll be a quick one. It's never a quick one with us. That's what she said. So so last week, let me tell you something. I've never been so proud of a pick in my entire life. I talked about it a little bit on Sunday. Never been so proud of a pick in my entire life. I picked Miami. So I went 1-1. You went 1-1. Well, Keegan stood in for you and went 1-1. Mm-hmm. Keegan picked the Jake Ferguson anytime TD, which did not hit. But no to scoring 3 unanswered times for either the Giants or the Patriots, which there were 3 scores total in that game. So he hit that. So that he was 1-1. I was 1-1 last week. I had Jared Goff under 1.5 passing TDs. Didn't work. Of course, they lost, but I was right about that. But Jared Goff played well. And then I had the Miami Dolphins defense anytime touchdown scorer plus 750 bet, which hit. I only put $1 on that one, which I was pissed at myself that I only put $1, but it was fine. But I was so amped to see that score. I was so excited. It was great. So, anyways, so I am on the season. I'm now 7-17. I'm sorry, and you are now 10-14 on the season. Oh boy. So, what do you got? What do you got for us this week, sir?
All right, I got a fun one. I considered going more aggressive with this one, but I scaled it back. We're keeping it simple. Okay. Tony Pollard. I always do a Thursday night one. Tony Pollard anytime touchdown against the Seahawks, which I put some real money on that one.
Good.
By real money, I put $1. But
hey, whatever, dude. It's money. Money's money.
We do the small bets here.
That's right.
But, yeah. Hey, you guys keep watching, like, and subscribing, and we can turn this into real money.
Well, listen, I'll tell you what. I told someone because someone was giving me crap. I hit a $5 parlay for like $50, and they were like $5. Blah, blah. I'm like, listen, I hate losing more than I love winning. So if I put $10 on a bet and it loses, I'm gonna be pissed at myself, dude.
I'm stressed.
I put like $20 on the Patriots over this year. I'm freaking pissed about that. I'm so mad. I can't even think about it. I'm so mad. You know what I mean?
I probably put $20-$25 cumulatively on various Patriots overs this year, like Mac Jones passing yards over, Mac Jones 4,000 yard passer, Patriots 10 wins. The one I felt the best about was just betting that the Patriots would have more wins than the Jets. The fact that they're not going to get that one is really upsetting with no Aaron Rodgers.
It's not great. It's not great.
I would not have believed. Yeah, that's about worst case. But yeah, I got Tony Pollard anytime touchdown, and then my other one, if we want to go through this fast.
Yes, do it.
Falcons Jets under 34 points. Just
love it.
I when in doubt, find the worst game of the week and bet the under. That's my strategy here.
Under is it 34 as a number?
Yeah.
Golly, that's low.
And I feel comfortable.
Probably will still hit. That's good. I like that one. All right, I'm also going with a. No, that's not Thursday night game. I'm going Bryce Young. Now listen, I told you that there is always there's always a bump, right? There's always the interim bump. But I decided not to go too crazy with it. I went Bryce Young over 10.5 rushing yards. Bryce Young over 10.5 rushing yards. I just figured maybe they'll let him run a little bit more. Maybe they'll kind of get him out in space a little bit, and he'll pick up a few yards running the ball. So that's what I did with that. And I went, instead of going with an over, I picked one of my favorite games of the weekend, which is Packers-Chiefs. And I went over on that, which is 42.5. I feel like that one. Look, the Packers on a great team.
Okay.
But they score, right? And the Chiefs defense is good. Don't get me wrong, but like the Packers aren't very good, but they score a decent amount of points. And obviously the Chiefs feels like they figured something out a little bit last week. And so I think that I'm going with the Packers Chiefs over.
I like that.
Yeah,
I like that.
Fun. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, all right, let's get into you got a trivia question for us, and then
before we do that, I got the college game to watch this week.
Oh yes, college game to watch. Forgot.
Yes, it's championship week in college football. And I think we're hitting a rematch here. We got this one earlier this year. It was fantastic. We're saying watch it again. 2 quarterbacks who could end up in New England, 2 wide receivers, or 4 wide receivers in this one who could end up in New England. It's Oregon and Washington, Pac-12 championship, 8 p.m. Eastern, Friday night on ABC.
That's good.
Friday night college football. You got 2 quarterbacks there who are good. Washington has a whole host of receivers. You got Troy Franklin for Oregon. I mean, it should be a fantastic football game. But if you're watching from a Patriots perspective, both of these offenses have guys that could be wearing the navy and silver in a few months' time.
It's interesting. I hope neither of those quarterbacks are starting here. Although Penix isn't bad. Penix has a little bit of movement, but he's mostly a pocket quarterback. But at least it looks like he has some mobility in the pocket.
And he's got some real arm strength too.
That's true. Bo Nix is like Chris Wanke to me. I just feel like he's been in college forever. I'm like, dude, no, I don't want nothing to do with Bo Nix, which of course means the Patriots will probably draft him. But I hope
it's funny because I think all 3, I think those 2 and Jaden Daniels are all 5th-year guys.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't know how exactly to analyze those guys.
Where was Bo Nix last year?
Oregon. He was at Auburn for 3.
Auburn. That's where he was. Because I saw him, and I don't really watch college football, as you can tell. And I was like, wait, Bo Nix. I'm like, wasn't he like? And I remember that he was at Auburn, but I couldn't remember the school then. But I'm watching the game, like first game of the season, and I'm like, wait, he's on Oregon? I'm like, I thought he was on Auburn like 4 years ago. What the hell's going on here, dude?
Well, and it's like I'm not really a Bo Nix believer, but also the last time I really, really watched him when he was at Auburn. Except for a couple games this season, I haven't watched his tape yet. So I'm Bo Nix agnostic at this point.
So there you go. There you go. I like that.
That's where I am on him.
Okay.
Yeah, and then trivia time.
Yes, let's do it. That should be a good game, by the way. I'm excited about that game, and there are some dudes. There's some dudes on both those teams. So
yes, I'm between college basketball on Friday and Saturday, and college football on Friday and Saturday. I'm very ready to upset my girlfriend by pulling out my phone in inappropriate places to pull up a game when it's close to see what's going on.
It's great.
That's the plan for the weekend. Trivia last week was how many touchdowns did Tom Brady throw to Randy Moss in the final week of the 2007 season against the Giants? The answer was 2, and I believe you said Matt Manito was the one who got that one. This week, our question: who did Tom Brady defeat in his last playoff victory at Gillette Stadium?
There you go. Yeah. Agnostic. I love it.
Agnostic. We're on one tonight in the chat. Oh, we've been saying his name wrong this whole time. Matt Manito. Manito.
Mosquito.
Yeah. We are looking for the team, guys.
Yes, the team. The team at the play. Although I think
I'll give, as long as the person who answered first there can give me the team.
I mean, come on now.
Then I will. I'll credit that one. Yeah, there we go. It was the Chargers. It's Chargers week. We're doing an easy one.
Yes.
We got our Thad just barely beating out Matt Mosquito there.
Matt Mosquito. Yeah, the Corey Perry stuff is wild, isn't it? Oh my god, we can't even get into that. That's Corey Perry stuff.
I don't even know. I've been only following partially, so I don't know.
Let me tell you something. Right now. If you haven't followed the Corey Perry stuff, just Google it. I'm not going to get into it.
There's a lot of rumors. I don't know.
A lot of rumors. Nothing's true. Well, there could be some things that are true. I don't know. Either way, it's an interesting story, and some of the things do line up where it's kind of like, huh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Anyways, that's just
Yeah.
But
all right, are we doing on the sand sports history?
Let's do it. Hold on, I got the sounder for you. I came unprepared. The Corey Perry comment threw me off, and I was like, oh my god, that's just what a wild story that is. Again, might totally not be true, but if it is, phew.
And now for something we think you'll really like. This week in sports history.
All right, so I have 2. Would you like to go first, or would you like me to go first?
You will go 1-1-1.
Love it.
So
go first. I'll let you go. I'll let you go first.
Oh, okay. I was saying because you got 2 that you go, then I go, then you
Oh,
go.
I see what you're saying. All right, that's fine.
Yeah.
All right, so on this day today, which is the 29th of October, 1934, Chicago Bears beat the Detroit Lions 19-16 in the first nationally broadcast NFL game. How about that?
Ooh. I
Pretty
like
good.
that.
Yeah,
That's pretty good right there. I've got. Actually, I scrolled away from it. I got. Oh yeah, here we go. This day in 1987, Joe Montana became he threw for 22 consecutive passes, setting an NFL record.
I love
Completed
it. Ooh,
22. Yeah.
22 consecutive passes. That's right. Yes,
Yeah.
that's a good one. I like that one. And then, this one's kind of like this is kind of a sad one. If I'm being honest with you, it's a little sad. But it bears mentioning on that exact same day, November 29th, 1987, the New Orleans Saints won a football game, which doesn't really matter that much. But what it did was assured their first winning season in franchise history. That's what I said. Franchise history. The New Orleans Saints started in 1967. For the first 20 years of their franchise, they had never had a winning season. They went 8-8 a few times, but they had never had a winning season until 1987. And guess what? They lost the first game of the playoffs and didn't win a playoff game. They didn't win a playoff game, as a matter of fact, I think all the way until 2000, which is wild. So the New Orleans Saints just hapless every single year of their entire life. Just the brutal existence, right? From the Aints with that's where the paper bag started, right? Is with them. So really fascinating. And they did win. December 30th, 2000 was their first ever postseason win against the St. Louis Rams. How about that? Beat the St. Louis Rams in the wild card game back in the 2000 season. So, but yeah, interesting. I mean, it's just. Anyways, we talk about it being bad here, but imagine your team's been around for 20 years and it's the first time you've ever had a winning season. I mean, my goodness.
Yeah, that's
yeah, not great. So anyways. All right, so that's it. Great show. It was a great show. It was a lot of fun. And you're right, Matt. It is when playoff games happen in December because now we're having regular season games start in January at this point. So,
well, not even just the playoffs. I mean, it's just you get late regular season.
That's true.
Oh yeah, the cold games. If we're talking the Chargers coming in, but yeah.
By the way,
you said Matt. I didn't realize Matt commented in the chat. I thought you were referencing what I said earlier about cold games in December.
No, sorry. I was talking about Matt Mosquito in the chat. But thanks, Thad, for coming through. I appreciate it. There was a time when the Patriots were the only team to have ever won a Super Bowl in February. We were 3-0 in February. And
it wasn't. No, it didn't get pushed back because of 9/11, right? It was supposed to be there.
It did. It eventually. That's why the first one happened in February, and then the next year it didn't happen in February, and then they were like, "Oh, let's just push it an extra week. That'll be good."
Yeah.
And so that's exactly what happened. So,
so
that's why
the Pats were supposed to have like a week 17 bye in 2001, I think, too, or something.
Yeah,
weird
isn't it the weirdest? Right? It was the weirdest thing ever. So they switched their bye.
Yeah.
To everyone had their bye in the same weekend. They ended up playing the Carolina at the end of the year. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. So,
which thankfully that ended up happening at the end of the year.
Yeah, I know, right?
I would have played Steve Smith early.
I know. It's true. So, anyways, all right. Well, thanks for coming through.
Matt's going to be at the game on Sunday.
Oh, look at that. Me too.
A little throwback.
Hit me up on Twitter and maybe we'll try to meet up if we can. I'll be there. I'll be at the game as well. So
say hi. Yeah. Hopefully it's a fun game on Sunday because this is, it's two teams that aren't great. The Chargers are clearly more talented. We haven't talked about the game here, but
whatever. Who cares about the game?
Well, we get throwbacks. I hope we get the Chargers in the yellow pants and get a nice bright matchup. Yeah.
Right. And you know what? The Chargers, Brandon Staley sucks so much. Doesn't it feel like Brandon Staley? This is the game. Like this is the game the Patriots going to win, and Brandon Staley's getting fired. Like, I just feel like this is the game.
I've been
He's
saying
so
that
bad.
for a while now.
Man,
Well, and
he's
it's
so
just
bad.
and the GM, man. Other than Herbert, that GM has not done anything right. I don't know how he's still there because they've just whiffed on so many guys. Like their star guys aren't as good as the other stars, and their depth guys are way worse than everybody else's depth guys. And the coach isn't putting them in a good position, which is making them look worse. But
agreed. So, and Dad, by the way, you're totally right. Belichick coaching the Chargers next year. I want it. Give it to me. I want it so bad. Give it to me. That's what I want. So, Bill Belichick in LA coaching the Chargers to a Super Bowl victory. Whew! I want it so bad I can taste it. Anyways, all right, we're getting the hell out of here before I keep going. Thanks for coming through, guys. We appreciate it, and we'll be back with you. It'll be late Sunday, just like it always is after home game. So I would say probably halftime of Sunday Night Football, and then we'll go from there. All right, take care, guys, and listen. We want a fun game, but at the end of the day, we kind of still want the Patriots to lose, which is kind of crazy to think about. So, but we'll see. Maybe the Patriots win, and then Brandon Staley is finally the nail in the coffin, and he's out of here.
Mm-hmm.
So, but all right, guys, see ya.